All right, everyone. Here we go. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the conferences. We are rating and ranking the Power 5 conferences for 2018. And so before we get to the hard nuts and bolts analysis of what happened in 2018 between the Power 5 conferences and unveil what we do each and every offseason, in which we take all the Power 5 results, non-conference results in the regular season and in bowl season, and the college football playoffs, of course. And we take those and we give them context by seeding the teams and weighting the games based on the seedings and then displaying the results and giving you our formula, which is going to be released very soon and has been in previous off seasons. We're doing a little fun experiment of sorts here, and this is simply off the cuff. And we are basically taking every Power 5 conference, pitting it against another one. And we're taking all the teams in the conference. Unfortunately, we've got discrepancies in number of teams. So in this instance, we've got the Pac-12 taking on the ACC. Please check out the previous video where we had the Pac-12 versus the Big 12. So in this case, we've got 12 teams in the Pac-12. We've got 14 in the ACC. So to make it fair, we took the top 4 in the ACC. Then we took out a team. Then we took the next 4, then we took out a team, then we took the bottom 4 in the ACC. So 12 teams from the ACC. I believe we are missing Georgia Tech, and we're also missing Duke out of the ACC. And again, we seeded the teams not based on my opinion, but based on the standings, top to bottom. So this is just my estimation on if these teams played 10 times, who would win the games. And the reason I went 10 games is because sometimes you'll see people will do this and they'll match up teams and say, well, if Washington played Clemson, Clemson wins. Okay, that's pretty easy. I think most of us would agree with that. Washington State, Syracuse. Wow, let's think about that. Let's say we think about it, we come to a reasonable conclusion that let's say Washington State wins. But are they as dominant against Syracuse as maybe Clemson against Washington? I don't think so. The better judge, the better judgment would be saying, okay, let's say they play 10 times because obviously some of these matchups are lopsided. Some of them are razor tight, razor close based on the seedings. And they should be, most of them. All right, so I'm taking the Pac-12 against the ACC. And at first glance, without breaking down the metrics of the results, and I've got my research just about done, these are most likely the 2 worst conferences in college football. Despite having a national champion right there in Clemson, just look at the drop-off, especially in the ACC side, or in the, ACC side. All right, let's run it down. I want to get your take on this as well. So wherever you believe that I missed it, misevaluated these teams, and what would happen if they played, please let me know down in the comment section. Of course, you can support Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, by taking any of the links down in the description section. So those are Amazon links. Do your regular Amazon shopping. Just use those links to enter the site. You don't have to buy any of the products. Just do your normal Amazon shopping to support Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And of course, you also do that by liking the videos, commenting on the videos, and of course, give me plenty of views by sharing the videos out to people that love college football on social media and otherwise. All right, let's go. Washington, Clemson. So it would be easy to say Clemson's the best team in the country. Washington's a really good team, but they did lose 4 games. Clemson would win 10 straight times. If they truly would play 10 straight times, I would put a lot of money on Washington winning at least 1 game. Washington's a very good football team. Consider that Clemson barely beat Syracuse. Clemson barely beat Texas A&M. And we've seen Clemson teams win national championships and go to national championship games in the past and lose to the likes of 4-8 Syracuse teams and a Pitt team that went 8-5. So over the course of 10 games, I'm taking Washington to win once against Clemson. This shows a very dominant Clemson team, obviously winning 90% of the times against a Washington team that won the Pac-12. All right, Washington State, Syracuse. I wrestled between 6 wins and 7 wins for Washington State. I think they're a superior team to Syracuse. The drop between Clemson and Syracuse, between first and second place teams, in the ACC is by far the widest gap of any conference in college football. Just think, Ohio State, Michigan. Well, it showed up on the field when they played, but obviously in the standings it did not. Ohio State's not that much better than the rest of the Big Ten by that much. Alabama and Georgia, obviously they were down to the wire. Oklahoma, Texas split 2 games. Washington only beat Utah by a touchdown in the Pac-12 championship game. Clemson is dominant in the ACC. So for this to be the worst conference in college football and have the best team, that speaks volumes to the rest of the conference. But it did not play well against the other 4 conferences. So Washington, I believe, I'm going with the Cougars, Washington State, to win 6 out of 10 games. I was vying for 7, but we're going to go 6 wins for Washington State. Utah and Pitt. We saw a pretty similar matchup, actually, in the Sun Bowl, where Stanford defeated Pitt by a score of 14-13. So it was a close game there. That actually brought me back a little bit closer to it being a closer series. I think Utah's a decidedly better team than Pitt. The Panthers were just blown out by the likes of UCF and Penn State and some other teams. Miami beat them by 3 touchdowns. So Utah wins this series 6-4. Stanford and NC State. Again, Stanford beat Pitt in the Sun Bowl. They will play NC State, and of course, the Wolfpack really did not win any meaningful games, didn't beat any really good opponents. They got blown out by Clemson, of course. They lost the bowl game to Texas A&M 52-13. It was not a great showing by NC State this year. Stanford's a more solid football team. They win 6-4. Oregon, Virginia. I really liked what Virginia did late in the season. Very much an improved football team and an upward trajectory football program under Bronco Mendenhall. But Oregon is too talented, has too many weapons on offense, obviously, at the quarterback position in particular. And we're assuming that all these teams are fully healthy, fully stocked at their peak for 2018. I like Oregon winning this series against Virginia 7-3. Arizona State, Boston College, not impressive. Impressed with the Sun Devils. They played well early in defeating Michigan State, staying within shouting distance of most teams in the Pac-12. They didn't get blown out really by anyone. They did lose to Fresno State in the Las Vegas Bowl by 11 points. Boston College, playing at their best, I think beats Arizona State in this one 6-4. Cal and Miami, I had some issues with this one. I believe that Miami's a decidedly more talented team, but if you look at the results and look at how they played against pretty similar competition, Miami lost to the likes of Georgia Tech and Duke and Virginia. Cal was able to play very well in a tough Pac-12 North Division with Washington, Washington State, and Oregon, and also Stanford. So I like Cal to play even up with Miami at 5-5. USC and Virginia Tech. I like the Trojans' talent. Virginia Tech was a mess late in the season. They rallied to get to postseason play with a win against Virginia. Played Cincinnati pretty tough in the bowl game, but I like USC. I know they only went 5-7, but Trojans get it done here 6-4. Arizona and Florida State. What do you make out of that series? Both teams severely disappointed everyone this season, with Florida State winning 5, Arizona only winning 5 games, so it would be apropos that they split the season series at 5-5, both teams missing bowl games with Kevin Sumlin and Willie Taggart in their inaugural seasons in those 2 respective programs. UCLA and Wake just a more solid football team, playing at its best late in the season. Yeah, they beat Duke 59-7. To make it to a bowl game, and then they won the bowl game impressively against a good Memphis team. So Wake wins this one over UCLA. You know what? I may make that 7-3 Wake. Let's go 7-3 Wake. What do you say over UCLA? UCLA was just a mess most of the season. Colorado and North Carolina. That's about all I could do with the last 2 matchups are just miserable football games. Colorado and North Carolina, the Buffs got off to a good start. They did have a win against Arizona State in Pac-12 play, but they lost to Oregon State. Oregon State, one of the worst teams in college football, with only 2 wins. North Carolina, Louisville was atrocious, losing all 8 games in the ACC. So these are just bad football teams, but somebody's got to win the games. and they're pretty much going to spread them out even 5 and 5 and 5 and 5. So what this brings us to, with now the UCLA Wake series now being in favor of the Demon Deacons at 7-3, we've got the Pac-12 59 and the ACC 41. Even with the Clemson dominance at the top, the Pac-12 is much better balanced top to bottom over the ACC, missing the likes of Duke and Georgia Tech. So there's a number of ways in which you can play it. I thought it was most fair that you go top 4, take out a team, 4, take out a team, final 4. You could have taken out the middle 2, which would be the 7 and 8 seeds in a 14-team league. So if you add it all up between the Pac-12 and the ACC, take into consideration we've got 12 teams playing here. So we've got 10-game series, that's 120 games. It's razor close. Your final is the ACC 61 and the Pac-12 at 59. 2 worst conferences in college football. I pretty much have no doubt, but I will run the metrics on the Power 5 non-conference games, and we'll let you know very soon as we continue with our first portion of the series. Now, the nuts and bolts is going to come later when we compare all the Power 5 conferences based on the results, the actual results on the field in 2018. What this is just fun. So let us know how you would evaluate these 10-game series and how it would play out. Also, let us know which teams you would like to see play. And it doesn't have to be Washington, Clemson, Washington State, Syracuse seeded out as the standings would dictate. If you would like to see USC and Pitt play, for example, for whatever reason, let us know what matchups you would like to see between the Pac-12 and the ACC. And consider, again, when you line these teams up and you give us your results for a 10-game series, it's based on everyone being fully healthy in their 2018 roster formation. Right here, we do it up big. Best discussion, debate, and analysis in college football. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.